It's Michael Oldham with the Oldham team, powered by EXP, here with Chris Madrid with Guaranteed Rate,
Hey, hey.
my lending partner out here in the business. We want to come to you today, give you a quick market of the moment. This is basically for the week of August 2nd. We're going to try to knock this out at least once a week so you can stay on top of what's going on.
Absolutely.
So appreciate you joining in. Chris is going to talk real quick, just some current mortgage trends and the way rates are today and how they're going to be trending. So go ahead and take it away, Chris.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah. So good news. It's always a funny thing with rates. We started off the week, kind of seeing all-time lows for at least the last, probably 6 to 12 months of where interest rates have been. So we're seeing, still like high twos. We were seeing like middle to higher twos last week. So they've ticked up a little bit. Obviously there's a lot of things from an economic, outlook that are putting pressure on that. But we'll see. I mean, there's gonna, I would expect volatility through the remainder of the year, with, obviously the potential of, we're talking about forbearances here in a little bit, but with that potential down the road, that may help continue to keep rates relatively low. But as the economy improves, the biggest thing that we're hearing in conversations, of course, is, always inflation, right? That's the biggest component that we're hearing about right now. So, man, in general, if you are in the process of purchasing a home or refinancing, and you're able to lock something in the twos, do it. Don't like wait around. Don't say, hey, let me think about it. Let me, do this and that. Because as quickly we saw, like last week, we saw a significant dip. I think it was like Tuesday or Wednesday. Rates dipped significantly, and then they were literally that next day they were slightly higher. They weren't like significantly higher, but it was an eighth of a percent difference in rate. And not that makes a huge difference in the rate per se, but that's thousands of dollars over the life of the loan, right? So those are those things that we always say, like, don't, if you hear it, and it sounds great, get it locked in, get moving forward as quickly as possible. So that's what we're seeing. Also, one thing to keep in mind, and this is always a this is always kind of a funny thing that comes up. So interest rates, from a lending perspective, we always get notified as they're happening, right? So as changes occur, all that kind of stuff. It is so funny. Like we saw rates dip last week, right? And we're getting that word out, and posting it on social media, calling past clients, our realtor partners, all that kind of stuff. Last week, because rates had dropped. Well, this week, of course, I get title companies and real estate agents and even customers saying, "Hey, I heard rates drop this week," and I'm like, "No, the news is just about a week late."
Yeah.
So that's one of those things too, is that, if you're thinking about refinancing, or people are pulling money out right now to do home improvements, right? So they've come to the realization that, hey, I don't want to sell. I want to stay in my current home, but I want to add, a pool, or an outdoor kitchen, or home. I just want to do home improvements because I've been in it for 20 years, or whatever it is. Um, those are those. It's kind of now the time to obviously do that. So that's the biggest thing is, if you're doing something like that, you hear anything sub threes, right? So if you can get a mortgage rate less than 3%, you're borrowing money for free. So take advantage of it as quickly as possible. Don't wait, because they will change tomorrow, right? And it could be up,
Yeah.
down, or flat, but it could be different. So, from a trends perspective, right, we're really expecting to kind of see rates up and down for the remainder of the year. The biggest component that is kind of the looming thing out there is, of course, through this time of COVID. um, Banks, mortgage companies cannot foreclose on anyone. We saw a lot of people last year take advantage of the forbearance that um, that either needed to or didn't have to, right? So it's that combination. There was really no checks and balances for it. If you called in and requested it, you got it automatically. So there was no verifying hardship. There was nothing like that. So it's going to be interesting to see. I would expect, like, fourth quarter, right, to start to see some of that. Maybe foreclosures starting, and some those kind of things, because of the halt that was put on them is being lifted, right? So we're going to start to see kind of see a little bit of a rise on foreclosures, because essentially there've been obviously people that were impacted by COVID and haven't been able to make a mortgage payment for 12 months, right? So that's the kind of the scary thing that's potentially coming. I mean, I don't know if there's an exact science on numbers that are coming
Yeah.
out just yet, but I mean, they're coming, right? And that's one of those things that we talk about, we've talked about before too, is inventory, right? That may help with inventory if you're looking, if you have clients that are looking to buy.
What are
So
you seeing in the market right now with your buyers and then your real estate agents you're working with? What are you seeing as far as what are they doing to secure contracts in this market right now?
yeah, that's the challenge. I just had a conversation yesterday where I'm advising clients, right? And kind of letting them know is, hey, you need to expect to make at least 10 offers before you get one accepted, right? 10 to 15 is kind of what we're seeing right now. So, really just setting those expectations, making sure that they're aware, communicating. The challenge right now is there's, listing agents and sellers are being bombarded with offers. So, a lot of buyers are getting upset, and rightfully so, that it's taking, 3, 4, 5, 6 days to get a response on an offer they submitted, right? But that's the biggest thing is, hey, you're going, 10 to 15 offers before you get one accepted.
Okay. And then, we did talk a little on the forbearance. Everything I'm reading is most homeowners have more home equity, have more equity in their home than they
Oh
did in
yeah,
'08. I'm also reading that the guidelines to get a mortgage are a lot stricter, so that there won't be the amount of foreclosures as maybe earlier expected.
right.
What are you hearing on your side of that?
Yeah, I mean that's those are conversations that we're having, and it almost seems like it just depends on what news outlet you're getting your information from, right? Yeah, lending guidelines for, since essentially, post, 2010, right? So the Great Recession, 2008, 9, and 10, lending guidelines have been really stringent, right? So we're having to verify if, customers can actually repay back their loan. We're verifying assets. So there's really very few and far between, um, maybe not even any, right? That were purchasing a home that didn't legitimately qualify for it. So the again, kind of the ancillary thing that's out there is, a lot of folks in the service industry, retail, uh, I'm drawing a blank, airplanes,
Oh, travel.
travel industry. Yeah. So again, those legitimately, they were impacted, right? They could not work. So, hopefully they were able to kind of make it through, but that's probably where we'll see, kind of see some of that. But again, at the end of the day, those people that purchased homes, they, whether it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, or even 10 years ago now, right? They legitimately qualified
Yeah.
post 2010. There was no stated income, stated assets. Again, all lenders and banks for the most part were looking at credit, income, assets, employment, right? Those major components to be able to qualify.
And you also can't over leverage your equity these days, which
Right.
I believe, 10 years ago, you could over leverage the equity you had. And so you didn't have any when this hit. And I don't think that's possible or as easy these days.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely
all
not.
right,
No, yeah.
friends. As Chris said, the market changes so quickly, especially in the mortgage. Rates always ticking up and down slightly.
Mhm.
Even an eighth percent might not mean a lot in your monthly payment, but it's going to mean a lot over 30 years
Yeah,
when you
absolutely.
start adding that up. So pay attention to the rates. That's why we're going to try to come once a week with a little market of the moment, because the market is the moment right now. It's not steady. So currently, I want to go over these 4 counties kind of surrounding our area. A healthy market's basically a 6-month supply of inventory. That means a 6-month supply of homes for buyers to be looking at. So we'll talk about that a little bit as we go through these. As you can see, the Collin County market averages over this last week. This is like a 7-day running total. So homes have been selling at nearly 6% over list price in Collin County, at a 105.6%. You're averaging 5 days on market. If you don't know what that days on market is, from the time it gets listed on MLS till it goes under contract, that's 5 days. So right now you're looking at basically a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's under contract on a Monday, most likely in Collin County. Move over to Denton County. You can see the numbers are very similar. 104.9% of list, almost 5%, still a 5 days on market. And you got a 1.2 month supply in Denton County as well. Moving down to Dallas County, still getting over list on listings, 101.3. Days on market ticks up a little bit, 7 days on market there. And you've got about 1.5 months supply in Dallas. And in Grayson County, which is Denison, Sherman, Pottsboro, Lake Texoma area, you actually can get a house a little bit under list there. You're looking at about 9 days on market and about a 1.9 month supply in that area. So if you're not familiar with that area, that's kind of starts at about Gunter and runs up to the Texas-Oklahoma border. A lot of people have been moving up that way.
Yeah, Van Alstyne.
The Go Texan retirement community. So if you're interested in looking up that way, we've been showing lots of homes up in that area. So anyway, as you can see, the market is hot, especially Collin County, Denton, Dallas. It does tick a little bit in Grayson. But I wanted to show this comp that I ran for a client recently as we were trying to decide what to offer on a home on the market. This was in McKinney, actually. McKinney with Prosper ISD actually is the home. You can see up at the top, I ran my comps for Prosper ISD, actually ran it for the neighborhood we were in, 500 square foot difference in homes, and this was the last 90 days. So I ran these for my client. We were looking at this home here at the top, and we had a home just down the street that had sold. It took 27 days. It sold 3% over, but sold for $10,000 more than asking. But really what I want to show here is the market of the moment. And what we're talking about is you can see these sold dates is in May and April and June and one in July. You can see back in May, you were selling at about 103%. Then it ticked up, on May at 103%. April, it was at 111, so it ticked down a little bit that month. But then you go into July and you have this 20% over asking that stands out. So even your averages was at 108, which is about 31,000 over asking in that particular market. So markets are different. I could run these same numbers in Rowlett and I'd probably get about a 99% of asking price there. So when you're looking, you got to make sure you're bidding in the market that you're in and not some other market. And you also have to understand that the market you're selling in, you're buying in. So a lot of people worry about where they're going to go. And if I make all this money, I'm just going to have to spend it on something else. But
Grayson County.
Grayson County. So, as Chris was talking about a little earlier, it kind of depends on where you get your news as to what they're saying about forbearance, and often what they're saying about the market in general depends on where you get your news. So there's a ton of real estate news floating around these days. I just think if you want the real scoop, you need to talk to guys like Chris and I, people in our network that are in the market that you're going to be in, daily. So just encourage you to reach out to one of us if you really want to know what's going on in your neighborhood. You really want to know what's going on with rates. You really want to know what's going on with trends. Reach out to us. Don't always necessarily have to log on to Facebook and Twitter to get that info. Some of it's dated, as Chris said earlier.
Yeah.
They came in with a game plan of this week of reaching out to clients about low interest rates. By the time they do, they're already ticking up. So pay attention to the market. You have questions, reach out to us, get the real answers. Here's our contact info. We I hate to say we work 24/7, but we're pretty much there for our people whenever they need. So
Yeah.
Chris, you have anything to add before we wrap up?
No, that's all great. I think the biggest difference, between going to a different news source, right, is real time information versus it's almost like news sources are gathering their information, but then it gets reported later, right? So it's not real time, and we, obviously we get our information real time, so we get it every single day when the market opens and rates come out. Same with you, right? You have access to the multiple listing service, so you're getting data as soon as it's available versus like a Zillow or a realtor or something like that, where it's all old old data basically. So yeah, I mean if you want real time information, we're your guys. So
So, all right. Well, I appreciate you jumping on here.
absolutely.
Catch up with you next week on it again and do it
Look forward
again,
to it.
man.
Okay.
All right. Appreciate you. We'll talk
See
at
ya.
you later, man. Good one.
Bye.